Hey, look kids, it's Cosmic Carnage! Hooray! So if anyone was wondering what caused the old classic game room to go over the edge, look no further than Cosmic Carnage. I mean, look at this title screen. Now, if that isn't the epitome of 1990s badassery, and I lived through the 90s so I would know, but if that isn't, then I wouldn't know. I don't know. But This Sega 32X fighting game released in 1995 courtesy of Sega and short-lived developers Givro Entertainment, I may be fumbling that name, but that's okay, they don't exist anymore, is partially to blame for the birth of Lord Carnage that changed the face of a once esteemed video review show. And in the universe of Lord Carnage, Cosmic Carnage is the greatest video game ever made, and nothing else comes close to touching its majesty, unless it's Truxton, EDF, or possibly Musha. However, I don't live in that universe, I don't have a space arcade, nor do I reside in the R-Zone in the year 2085, nor am I trapped in a Tomb of Infinity reincarnated as a beer mug or whatever obscure references nobody is going to get these days. I live on the boring planet Earth in the year 20XX, and on the boring planet Earth in the year 20XX, Cosmic Carnage for the Sega 32X is not very good, at least not on a technical level. So the basic premise of Cosmic Carnage is as follows. You got two ships in space, each with a crew of 4 and each part of widely different factions, crash into each other, resulting in some disaster being imminent and only one escape pod available for somebody to escape. So our 8 stranded participants must fight each other until one is left standing so they could try and get to the escape pod and die anyway. Yeah, so this game has a thing where if you don't beat everyone fast enough, you get a bad ending. But if you do win with the least, if you take the less time to win, apparently, you get the good ending. Just the one good ending, by the way. No character-specific endings or anything like that, save for the mugshot. So, the reward's not really worth it, but I digress. So there's only 2 modes of play, the single-player arcade mode and the 2-player versus mode, which is pretty self-explanatory. The game boasts 8 playable fighters to choose from in Cosmic Carnage, each of whom are wonderfully unique in their design and concept. The flaming girl, the alien snake thing, the alien ant thing, the alien xenomorph ripoff thing. Give Cosmic Carnage some credit. They were going for out-of-this-world character designs, and they certainly succeeded. Now, if alien-looking aliens offend you for some reason, you can turn off your system, press and hold the X, B, and Z buttons before turning it back on or resetting your system, that works too, and keep holding onto those buttons for a bit and you'll unlock the Japanese Cyber-Brawl, which is the same game but replaces some of the alien fighters with more anime-esque human characters that play the same as the aliens replaced or vice versa, or it's just a different skin, it's the same shit, it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter, fuck. By the way, I like that how they're all aliens and they still bleed red. So, yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways. So, the 8 fighters are divided into groups of 4, one representing a security force and another representing renegades. Now, the first group, the security force, have the ability to equip armor, of which there are 2 types. A light armor based more on speed and a heavy armor based on more power. Nobody's gonna get that. Also, that sucked. Armor also determines what special moves you have, and in a neat bit, you can actually mix and match your different armor pieces, arms, chest, and legs, I believe, with each piece tied to a certain special move. Now, the caveat, of course, is that armor can be damaged and eventually destroyed, which not only leaves your fighter more vulnerable, but also deprives them of attack options. You got a fireball attack to spam? Not if your arms fall off, pal. Now on the flip side, the remaining 4 fighters have no armor, the Renegades, but they also have their special moves at all times. So there's a nice little attempt to try and vary things up with the different fighters, just beyond giving them different stats and movesets. And with the ability to customize armor, you have a sort of ability to sort of customize your moveset so much because each part has a specific move type to it. And of course, each fighter has a unique move to themselves that they can use regardless of which armor they have. I'm talking about the security force. The renegades always have their moves. So there's just enough depth to make it somewhat unique, but it doesn't quite save the gameplay entirely. And also, unlike most fighting games, Cosmic Carnage lacks any bosses or secret fighters for you to contend with. So you just fight and beat the 8 and you're done. And you're dead. But whatever. So Cosmic Carnage is your usual one-on-one fighting game. You have 2 punch buttons, 2 kick buttons, and 2 buttons for taunting. Naturally, it goes without saying that this makes use of the 6-button gamepad, and trying to play this with the standard Genesis 3-button one is not recommended. Special moves are performed with the usual motions, quarter circles and such. Some use the taunt buttons to execute said moves, and I don't know why that is, but it's something, I guess. Anyways, you know how this goes, best of 3 rounds, and whoever wins 2 rounds wins the match and moves on to the next match. And if you finish your opponent in the second round with a special move, you'll enable one of 3 little fatality type animations. Either a head will explode, limbs will fall off, or they'll be split in half. You can also see these animations on the continue screen if you choose not to continue. It's a rather unique touch, at least. And look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The gameplay of Cosmic Carnage is absolutely mediocre fighting game fare. Controls are best described as functional at best. If you know the moves, you'll be able to pull them off with little effort, though it won't always register and the timing tends to be a bit spotty at times. Collision detection isn't entirely spotless, but it does get the job done and it does work. But what hurts Cosmic Carnage more than anything is the overall sluggishness of the action. It's slow almost to the point of plodding, and when certain moves are being played out or being animated, the action slows down considerably. Whether this is done for effect or just the 32X struggling to keep up with the action, it feels like the game is about to crap out at any moment. Unfortunately, it never does, so I guess that's some credit to it. The more unique Alien Fighter sports some more interesting moves and holds that makes things worthwhile if nothing else. Also, it's at least playable to a point, but that's about it really. So if I were to venture a guess, I'd imagine most of the 32X processing power went into the graphical presentation of Cosmic Carnage / Cyber-Brawl. And while still shots might not seem like much, because the overall visual quality is a little rough looking, there's some neat effects that they try to pull off here. The shifting camera's perspectives where you're zooming in and out of the action depending on the distance between the fighters or during dynamic moves or during victory poses. Neat effect that I like, even if I've seen it done better on the Neo Geo, which isn't much of a surprise. I like that they tried to add some perspective to some of the spinning moves, with some bits appearing much bigger to imply being much closer to the camera, filming the action. It's a neat little trick they tried to pull off, doesn't look quite well, but it's the thought that counts. Hell, I don't even mind the awkward-looking animations on these fighters who seem like they're being controlled like puppets on strings, similar to the old Thunderbirds program from way back when. I mean, look, this is stuff you couldn't really pull off on the Genesis or even the Super Nintendo without making it look like total shit. So Cosmic Carnage has that much going for it at least. It still doesn't look great, but it could have been worse on lesser hardware. Also, another positive I will levy towards Cosmic Carnage. It's got some pretty kick-ass chiptunes coming out of that Mega Drive synth. Tunes that probably would have been better suited for a shmup type of game as opposed to this fighting game sort, and nothing I would consider particularly memorable or anything of the sort, but while you're playing it, it makes for some nice, energetic background music while you bear witness to the underwater fighting in deep space, which is almost like fighting underwater, so I guess that was what they were trying to go for. Doesn't make for the most exciting game, but the rest of the sound effects are your stock, scratchy, generic sounding impact sound effects you hear on a bunch of these Genesis titles. I guess the 32X couldn't quite fix that, but there's so much you could do, huh? Cosmic Carnage is not a particularly good fighting game. It's got a couple neat ideas going for it, but the sluggish gameplay and controls hamper things quite a bit. Playable to a point, and it's not quite as bad as some of the rubbish fighters I've played in the past, but just misses the mark of being qualified as average fare. So if you're looking for a top-tier fighting game, or even something that's well-made, you're really not going to find that here, because that's not what this is. Now, with that having been said, while Cosmic Carnage isn't much of a good fighting game, it is a somewhat unique experience, and there's a certain charm to the game that makes it fun to take in if you're willing to put up with some of the game's quirks. But while some would cite the cheesiness of the game's presentation as something worthwhile, I see Cosmic Carnage as more of a fascinating experiment. Seeing this game try to pull off graphical tricks and zooming effects in an attempt to showcase what the 32X was capable of. It doesn't quite work as well as hoped. Although, you know what? I'd imagine being wowed by this had I seen this back in the day, and if nothing else, I could at least admire the effort in what the developers were trying to go for here. Maybe someday someone could snap up the rights and give Cosmic Carnage another go on more capable hardware. Certainly would be something different from the usual fare being put out there ad nauseum, but for now, Cosmic Carnage, aka Cyber-Brawl, remains an exclusive on the Sega 32X, and a game that I would place firmly and comfortably under the mileage varying category. You want a good fighting game? Look elsewhere. You want a unique experience? Why not give this a shot? Might not be worth getting a 32X over, but it's got its moments, and that's gotta be worth something. To somebody out there, somewhere, in deep space, on some intergalactic, whatever, the X zone or something. I got this fucking thing out of the way. What's next?